am a classical musician. I perform music for my profession, and today I'd like to share with you how my view of what I do has changed over time. First, a confession. I'm still finding out what it's all about, but back to what I do know and what most people think a musician does, that is perform music. Here is a score by Johann Sebastian Bach. Ta-da! Here's a solo piece for solo violin by Johann Sebastian Bach. I don't hear anything yet, do you? My job as a performer is to take these notes on the page and make them come alive to you, the audience. There are many decisions that I have to make and so many choices to choose from for every note. Decisions such as dynamics, emphasis and articulation, fingerings and bowings, and other considerations such as tempo and style and sound color and character. I could go on. This is what the music looks like in my head after I've worked on it. To truly capture what the composer's vision is of his music, it seems almost Sisyphean sometimes. But concert time comes, I walk out on stage, and this is what I do. I perform it for an audience. This is one of the things that I do as a performing musician. It was in Budapest, Hungary, where I was studying for 2 years that I really started to think more deeply about what live music is. What is a concert, really? What is a live concert experience? Is it just a performer playing for an audience? And why do people still flock to live concerts when you can download practically any piece of recorded music online, anytime, in the comfort of your own home? I think because in Budapest, I didn't know a single word of Hungarian, that music became a way for me to connect with other people. I took those little flyers off the street, you know, like all of them, and I went to churches, and I went to dance halls and restaurants to listen to live music, and I started to hear music in a different way. I'd like to try an experiment here with you, so bear with me. It's pretty quiet in here, isn't it? Okay, now I'm going to give you a cue in a second, and I'd like for all of us to take an inhale breath and hold our breath and listen. Ready? Okay, so there was an almost eerie expectation about the room, wasn't there? And then when everybody exhaled, it was like letting the air out of a balloon. The tension was released. It's the sound of the space that we're in and the presence of other people that contribute to our total sensory awareness of what's happening in a live performance. Music in Budapest often happened in smaller spaces rather than large concert halls. Spaces like this, where we were all packed in like sardines. And in those spaces, I could really feel the presence of other people. When they shifted, when they breathed faster because the tempo was faster of the music. And you could also hear the musicians breathing and moving, and the fingers on the fingerboard, and the scraping of the bow on the strings. It was this total sensory awareness that is not available on a recording. They smooth everything out, and they delete all of these extra sounds. Last week in a recording session, I was always being told, don't breathe, because they didn't want to record my breathing on the CD. Another aspect of the live concert experience that came to me was from hearing this Roma violinist play several times. It was incredible. He played differently every night. Even with the same piece, it was different. Different sometimes by a lot, where he would rush to a climax in a different way, or a little bit when he would just turn a phrase in a slightly more reluctant way. Once I was sitting right in the front row of his concert, and he came right up to me, and he was playing so vigorously. I felt the blast of his energy, and I felt that he was really communicating with me and seeing how intently I was listening to him. That moment was unforgettable and never to be repeated again. His literal recreation of every note and every performance made it spine-tingling and alive and never the same. Recordings, on the other hand, are always the same, no matter how many times you play it at home. Back in the States, I had a chance to perform in smaller venues, such as museum lobbies and children's playrooms and libraries. The audiences that came to these concerts were often passers-by, and they stopped and they gathered and they listened. And I realized a third aspect of the live concert experience, which is the communal experience of it, being together and listening together. And I started to think about what a community is. In college, I wrote my thesis on 19th century French salons, artist salons that met together weekly to share and recite poetry and music for each other. Those performances were exclusive and private, but our performances these days, they can take place anywhere and at any time. And our sense of community these days is ever expanding, more and more numerous, and just more and more interconnected. Nowadays, there's even a chance that somebody I rode the subway with this morning also reads the food blog that I read online every day. I tried to ask this guy, but he was clearly too tired to respond. 2 years ago, after reading about Haiti's earthquake, I was in Tokyo for 1 week, and I decided to organize a benefit concert. In 1 week, we had 8 musicians playing together in Tokyo Tower, of all places. Hundreds of people came, and we rode the elevator up 400 feet up in the air, and we listened to music, and we supported a community across the world. Looking back, I see how many different communities came together to create this concert, and we were all connected for this concert. The audience, musicians that I knew, volunteers, friends, businesses, organizations, all of these communities coming together. It was exhilarating. Tomorrow, I give a benefit concert for the tsunami-stricken areas in Japan. And I heard just the other day that 2 sumo wrestlers will be present. Little would I have thought that sumo wrestling and classical Western music would come together in one night. Here at TEDx today, TEDxUTokyo, we are a community. We have come together because of our shared engagement with the theme here, which is orchestrate your visions, or rather orchestrate our visions for the future and the world. A taped recording of this event will exist long after today, and our community here will continue to grow over the internet. But for now, right now, in this moment, right here, we are in this beautiful space with a unique set of people and unique visions. My vision as a performing musician is not only to create beautiful sounds, but to bring people together and connect communities through music. And now to finish, I'd love to play a few notes for you.